Hey everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started now. So first off, thanks for taking the time. Thanks for jumping on here, spending a couple minutes with us this afternoon. So as you can see on the title slide here, if you're coming here to learn about boosting mobile conversions, you're in the right place. So to kind of give you a little bit of background as to why we're hosting this webinar, you've probably seen the stats too, we've seen them. Mobile devices are continuing to rise, and desktops are continuing to flatten as far as the growth goes, and the number of internet connected devices. But what we've seen is mobile conversion rates are still lagging far behind desktops, and this isn't even a new thing now. We've known about the rise of mobile and the fact that people are switching from desktops to smartphones and tablets for over 5 years now, but it just still seems like mobile conversions are lagging behind desktops. So what we did is we did a lot of research. We did investigations through our own data and analytics that we capture here at AddShoppers, and we came up with 5 strategies to boost mobile conversions that you can take away and start working on in 2016 to really help boost your conversion rate and your overall strategy in the coming year. So today, by the way, I'm Peter from AddShoppers, and I'm introducing Chad here. So he's going to be your presenter today. Chad Ledford is the co-founder and chief revenue officer here at AddShoppers. He's bringing over 12 years of e-commerce experience, including founding the 4th fastest growing retail company in the US, according to the Inc. 500. And today what we're going to be covering is topic 1, topic 2, topic 3, and if you're really lucky and we have enough time, topic 4. So if you have no idea what that joke was about, to give you the background, last week we accidentally sent out our first promotional email about this webinar early before it was done. So instead of having like the completed marketing copy in the email, it said topic 1, 2, and 3 is what you're going to join to learn about. So we got a couple of people emailing back, kind of poking fun of us, which was very well deserved. But I ended up like piecing together really quickly like a email like, hey, sorry about that. And what was surprising is that combination actually ended up being one of our best performing emails of the year. So don't try that at home, but with that said, I'm going to go ahead and let Chad take over, and he'll take it from here.
Great, thanks, Peter. Yeah, internally we definitely gave Peter a hard time for that. So the actual agenda and what we're going to go over today, first we're going to go over mobile growth as an industry. And then we're going to take a look at the difference between micro moments and secondary conversions so that we can start setting the stage for some of the strategies that we're going to go through. And then from there, we're going to go through specific strategies that we've seen work for other marketers. And then the last thing that we'll do is go through a live QA. So usually for these webinars, we like to keep it really interactive. So over on the right-hand side of GoToWebinar, you'll see a chat box and a questions box. So as I'm going through this, feel free to drop in any questions that you have. And then as we're going through the slides, Peter will iterate whatever your question is, and then we'll kind of go through it as we go through the slides together. And then for any sort of generic questions, we'll save those to the end for the live Q&A. So mobile first. So a lot of companies are transitioning from the desktop world and trying to figure out mobile. So the companies that are going mobile first, we're going to dive into a few examples of how they're doing it and the success that they're having. But first, just to iterate the growth of mobile. In this chart that we're looking at here, you can see tablets on the left, smartphones, and then PCs on the right. So traditionally, whenever marketers looked at e-commerce growth and we threw out numbers like 20% year-over-year annual growth, it was almost always talking about PC growth. We're still seeing that growth in e-commerce in general, but a lot of that growth is being more attributed to mobile and smartphones, where the year-over-year growth percentages are in excess of 80 and 90%, like you can see on this chart here. So a couple of companies. The first one that we're going to look at is Wish.com. So if you haven't heard of Wish.com, you can think of it almost like Pinterest, but just for products. So customers can save products, they can buy products, and these guys really focused on mobile first as a strategy. So just to give you an idea of their growth, they launched in 2011. By 2013, they had over 12 million users, and then in 2014, they raised at a $1 billion valuation, and then continue to raise. Whether that's good or bad is to be determined, but I think this shows that their focus on mobile and the way that they're interacting with customers inside of their app and their responsive site has really helped propel them, and they've been able to ride the trend. Another one that you may or may not be aware of is called Box.com. So these guys are sort of like Costco inside of an app. So you can essentially sign up. Membership is free, but you order everything in bulk. And again, they really focused on mobile first. So they launched in 2013, raised a 6.5 million Series A, and then they raised a 25 million Series B in January of 2015. So a lot of these companies that we're looking at here, they're all still private companies, and we don't have their revenue numbers and things like that, but just the trajectory of the company, whether that's number of employees they're bringing on, how much they're raising in number of active users, shows us that these companies are getting traction on mobile. And then the last one here to take a look at would be Wanilo. So Wanilo, again, this is sort of like that Wish.com example that we looked at, but their focus is really on getting people to save products that they like and then being able to order those from their mobile device. So they started in 2011, had over 1 million registered users by 2012, so they were kind of in the earlier days of the whole m-commerce revolution, and then you can see a little more on their growth trajectory here. So with all that being said, the key thing that we're going to focus on here is that your mobile strategy should be built around generating a micro moment and then capturing secondary conversions. So let's start with the micro moments and the evolution of what advertising has looked like over the past 60 years. So in the 1960s, advertising was not as complex as it is now, obviously, but there were about 6 potential combinations to define what a conversion would look like. So the ad distribution was limited to about 3 channels. You had TV, print, and radio, and then people would either order from a catalog or in-store. And then in the early 2000s with the internet, the distribution of how you could advertise to people started to balloon a little bit. Now you could advertise through banners, digital marketing, search engine marketing, email, and then your distribution channels also started to grow. So now you could sell through your website or through multi-channels like eBay and Amazon. So I think we had a question come in, so I'm going to pass this one back over to Peter real quick.
Yeah, so first question that I wanted to pass to you, Chad. Should retailers be making their own mobile apps, or is a mobile optimized website better, or at least like a good enough solution?
Yeah, so there's obviously a lot of cost and effort that goes into creating a mobile app, but as far as being better, if you have a pretty solid budget and you have a team that can manage the mobile app, then I would suggest investing there. But if you don't have that, then mobile responsive is going to be the next option here. The biggest benefit with the mobile app is being able to do push notifications to people, and we'll go through a couple more examples on some segmentation things that we can do once we actually get into the strategy piece. So again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw those over on the right-hand side, and we'll go through them as they come in. So again, this is the early 2000s that we're looking at here, and that led to about 24 potential combinations to actually define a conversion. So fast forward to the 2010s, and now there are several different ways to advertise people, whether that's sponsored content, paid app placement, pay-per-click, desktop banners, cable TV, internet TV, whatever the distribution channel might be. And then there's also an increasing number of distribution channels, whether that's someone going in-store, buying through an app, or buying through the website. People are still ordering on Amazon and eBay, and now you've got other people like Pinterest and Facebook who are creating their own marketplaces where you can buy there as well. So the complexity in figuring out what's working or not working becomes really complicated for the marketer. And these combinations and everything that we were just looking at, the way that people see your brand on one channel and where they actually place an order, those are what we're defining as micro moments. And the only way that you can really measure those micro moments and when someone goes to one channel and then ultimately orders or engages with your brand on another channel, the only way to measure that is through an attribution guide or setting up your own attribution model. So Peter's going to drop in a link over on the right if anyone has more interest in learning about this subject. But the key to optimizing and creating a great mobile experience that converts really high is having some sort of attribution model in place. So the company that's sort of spearheading this idea of a micro moment is Google, and they essentially break out micro moments into 4 different categories. There's I want to know moments, I want to go, I want to do, and I want to buy. So it's really important for you as a marketer to understand where someone is at within that that funnel of actually placing an order. A lot of people just focus on the I want to buy moments and assume that everyone who's on their site is ready to buy, but sometimes they just want to know things or they just want to do things and they're just looking for information and things like that. So the ability to understand where those people are at in the funnel is a key concept in some of the strategies that we're about to go through. So again, your strategy should be built around generating a micro moment and then capturing a secondary conversion. So next we're going to go through what a secondary conversion is. So a secondary conversion is any conversion that leads to a primary conversion, such as placing an order, whether that's online, in-store, going to a dealership, or however you define that conversion. The secondary conversion is what they do before they actually get to that final conversion. So the hierarchy of secondary conversions. A good secondary conversion would be someone's on their mobile device and you're able to drop a cookie on that person, so you're capturing some sort of intent signal and you have the chance to remarket to them again. A better conversion would be capturing that customer's email address so that you have the chance to send them an email or do lookalike targeting or CRM targeting and some other things that we'll go through here in a little bit. The best secondary conversion is going to be getting the user to actually create an account. And then the ultimate secondary conversion is getting that person to refer one of their friends. So that would be someone who's placed an order, created an account, and then they're actually willing to refer a friend back to the site. So I'm going to pause here for a second because we have another question.
Hey, yeah, so the next question is about site speed. So what are some of the best ways to boost site speed on mobile?
Yeah, so the biggest thing here is image sizes and then just the number of scripts that you have loading on the site. So I'll get into a little bit more on site speed and using that strategy here in just a second. So back to the secondary conversion. So now we know what the good, better, and best secondary conversions are, but how do you actually determine what those are worth? So what is it worth if you on somebody? Or what is it worth if you capture someone's email address? Or what is it worth to get someone to sign up for an account? So there's a lot of numbers on here, but the column I want you to focus on is the good column and retargeting, because the math carries over to all the other ones that we're looking at here. So if you look at your last 12 months of marketing data around retargeting, if you decide, okay, the total attributed revenue or the revenue that we're willing to give to that channel equals $100, that's that first number that we're looking at here. And then from there you take the total unique customers. So how many unique customers have you been able to identify or capture from that channel? And that gives you your value per unique customer. And then from there you take your margin and that gives you your target acquisition cost. So that bottom row that you see here, this is going to show you exactly what it's worth to drop a cookie, to capture an email, for someone to create an account, or for someone to drive a referral. And once you have all of these numbers in place, then this is how we're going to start backing into some of the strategies. So let me go to the next slide here. So before we get into some of the unique strategies and things that we've seen really work for retailers, I want to go through some of the more generic things or things that you probably heard through other channels that people are doing to optimize on mobile devices. So the first thing that you're always going to hear is the ability to create a fast and simple design, because you have to assume that anyone on a mobile device isn't usually connected to Wi-Fi. So the first thing to focus on is speed. So this is relates back to the question that Peter was just asking around how do you make the site faster? And that's always something that you want to be aware of and focusing on. So the main thing there is just assume that users aren't connected to Wi-Fi on mobile. The next thing that we would suggest would be to remove any kind of complex navigation. So in general, you don't want customers to have to tap to browse throughout your website or throughout your mobile app. Scrolling is always going to be better than tapping. So if you think Pinterest for your category, brand, and search pages, it's going to be a better user experience. They're going to be able to discover more of the catalog or whatever content it is you're distributing, and you always want to have scrolling over tapping. So in general, taps are the new clicks, and you want to remove as many taps as possible. So whenever you were thinking about desktop sites 5 or 10 years ago, the goal was always to remove clicks from the checkout process or from the buying process. That same logic applies to mobile, but it's built around taps. So one thing that you can do here is a couple of your customer service reps, have them actually place customers' orders from the mobile app or from the mobile responsive site, and then report back after a few days with any kind of suggestions or things that they could suggest removing to make it easier for your customers to actually do it. Because if your customer service reps can go through that experience, you're going to get a direct line of feedback into that experience. So in general, less is always more, and you want to figure out what you can hide that doesn't stop people from placing an order, and then hide as much as possible. And then the last one is going to be a focus around product videos. So people in general don't like to read on mobile devices because the screens are smaller. It's okay to have some sort of like descriptive text and things like that, but if you're introducing people to a new product or a new idea for a product videos are always going to be better on mobile device. They're going to get a higher engagement rate, and you're going to get a higher conversion rate for any product that has a video. Another one that you're going to hear is easy and one-touch checkouts. So a lot of companies are pushing for this, especially PayPal, Amazon, and some of those guys. But the number one thing that we would recommend, if you're able to do it, is for you as a brand to store credit card information. We know that there's a lot of PCI compliance and security and other things that go into that, but in general, if you can own that customer experience, that's what we found is preferred for most brands. But if you can't do that, then it's fine to rely on other channels like PayPal and Amazon. So number 2 here, Crutchfield, they saw about a 33% increase on mobile once they integrated checkout with PayPal. Amazon reports similar conversion increases. On average, they see about a 5% increase whenever you implement checkout with Amazon. Visa and MasterCard, those guys are still working on gaining traction. I'm not sure I would invest any time into that right now unless they're giving you something in exchange for it. And then the final one, and the one that is probably the most exciting for most retailers, is going to be the Apple and Android Pay, where you can basically scan your thumbprint and then complete the checkout process. But we're not quite there yet, so that one's still a little bit of a pipe dream. So getting to some of the advanced strategies and the 5 things that you guys are really here to learn about. So one quick note, if you haven't caught on to it yet, the email address is the Internet's universal identifier. So an email is really the best way to identify who an individual is, and then building out either your CRM or all of your first-party data around the email address is going to have the highest accuracy whenever it comes to any kind of cross-device optimization or in general just being able to market to people. So there's a lot of companies out there now that can take an email address and match that to a cookie online. And a couple that come to mind are LiveRamp. Facebook can do this whenever you upload your CRM into Facebook for any kind of audience targeting. So their audience network isn't at as big of a scale as Google and some of the others yet, but it's going to be really interesting whenever they build that out some more. But in general, your goal as the marketer, and one of the most valuable things that you have is that customer's email address, not just because you can email the person and send them promotional emails, but because you can use that for any additional advertising that we'll go through here in just a second. So the number one strategy that we've seen work on boosting mobile conversion rates is requiring account registration on mobile websites and mobile apps. So a couple examples just to put this in context. Whenever you downloaded Uber for the first time, you couldn't do anything until you signed in. If you've ever gone to Rue La La, you can't do anything until you sign in. Another example of this would be Plated, who, if you're not familiar with Plated, they send you awesome food each month. But basically, you can't do anything until they know who you are as the end customer. So there's some pros and cons to this. Pro is that you capture 3 secondary conversions by making this a requirement. So whenever the customer creates an account and they actually do go to checkout later, it's going to reduce that friction because they already have an account set up for you. And it's also going to enable personalization because once you know who that person is and you have their email address and any other details from that account creation, you're going to be able to personalize what they see, whether that's through email, retargeting, or any other marketing channels. And then you're also capturing the customer's email address for additional future marketing. So in general, email marketing is still one of the highest converting sources for all marketers. And then if you take that a step further and look at any type of lookalike modeling or audience targeting through social networks, then that email address becomes even more valuable. So that's where capturing the customer's intent for the remarketing, like the products viewed, carts abandoned, and things like that, becomes really valuable. The con to this is that it is going to increase your bounce rate on mobile devices. So if you're requiring everyone to create an account, then you're going to be weeding out those tire kickers and people who just kind of want to browse around for a second. But the people who are genuinely interested in the brand are most likely willing to create an account with you. So number 2, this is going to be to personalize the experience for different cohorts of traffic. So a couple examples. The first one here, this would be an example of a user near a physical store. So using GPS data, which you can pull from mobile devices to let customers know that they're near a certain store, and then making it really easy for them to find out where you are. The second example, this would be an example or a cohort example of taking everyone who's coming to your app or your mobile website from Pinterest and then showing them some sort of Pinterest exclusive offer. So in this example that we put together, it would be pin any of our products for a chance to win a $500 shopping spree. And then the third one over on the right is one that is really exciting, and it's basically being able to pull whether someone is connected to Wi-Fi or not connected to Wi-Fi. So the reason this is really valuable, if you think about mobile for a second, usually the drop-in conversion rate isn't because of the screen size or the user experience. Marketers are in general doing a really good job at just creating mobile-friendly sites and making the checkout pretty smooth. But customers aren't always ready to place an order. If they're on Wi-Fi and they're sitting on their couch at home, they're going to convert higher than someone who's on 3G or 4G and they're walking around the mall and looking at XYZ product, or they're not in a position to place an order because their internet's going slow right now. So being able to segment out who those people are that are on the slower connections and then giving yourself a chance to market to them again. So in this example, it's just, we noticed you're on a slower connection, enter your email and we'll send you a 10% off coupon code for later. So I think Peter had another question that came in, so I'll pause here for a second.
Yeah, so going back to that last one, the question is, if you do require registration on mobile devices, what data points should we be asking visitors to fill out?
Yeah, so the less that you ask for, the higher the conversion rate's gonna be. So on Plated, for example, you can see they're just asking for zip code initially, and then after that they ask for email address. A lot of apps and mobile responsive sites are focused more around getting people to sign in using some sort of social network, which by default is going to give you more data as the marketer. So if you have social login enabled and you can have sign in with Facebook or sign in with Google and those options, it's going to capture additional data fields without you actually having to ask the customer for it. So in general, if you're using, I would say social login is going to be one of the best ways to capture more information. And if you're going to require account registration, keep it really simple to just email and password if you don't have social login as an option. Cool. Yeah, so feel free, again, drop your questions over on the right side, and we'll go through those as we're going through the presentation here. So over on the left, you can see a couple additional targeting cohorts or ways that you can segment customers out to start optimizing this mobile experience to increase your conversions. So the pros of personalization in general, whenever we see clients start to segment out and treat different customers differently, they see about a 50% increase in mobile conversion rate. But the con here is that a lot of this, and there's ways to get around discounting, but in general, to boost those conversions, if you can offer something like $10 off or 50% off or whatever it might be, that type of strategy can also eat into your margin and sort of train your customers to always look for a coupon code. So you have to be careful with how you're doing some of the personalization because you don't want it to always be focused around discounting. So number three, rewarding mobile visitors in exchange for their data or their profile information. So the first strategy was to require it. This would be an example of giving them some sort of incentive or reward in exchange for them signing up, creating an account, or just giving you their email. So an example over on the left, you can see Remarkable here, and they're doing Win a Remarkable Whiteboard Paint Kit where you can either sign in or drop in your email address. The one in the middle, they're giving away a $100 gift card, and the one over on the right, they're just using a survey to capture the customer's intent before they decide what promotion they want to give to that person. So rewarding mobile visitors in exchange for their data is a really, again, a great way to capture who these people are. And you're going to see your email capture rates increase anywhere from 300 to 500%. And you can also use this to drive referral traffic or any additional things that you want to do, like followers on Instagram or Pinterest and things like that. But the con here is that the incentive, I know some people just hate pop-ups and slide-outs and things that just take over the entire user's experience, but that's kind of the downside of this type of segmentation or showing these type of rewards to people, is that it could distract people from the shopping experience. So you want to make sure that if you do a strategy like this, that you're at least A/B testing to figure out if it's helping or hurting. So number four is creating one-to-one moments using any of your first-party data or profile data that you have on your customers. So this is going to become increasingly important, especially if you work with or if your customers are a younger demographic. Millennials and people who are younger than that, they really expect to be treated like an individual and not just like a group of people. So being able to create those wow moments or making them feel really special is always going to help increase your conversion rates. So I think we had another question on the last one, so go ahead and throw that one in there, Peter, and then we'll come back to the one.
Yeah. So the next question was about, I guess the last strategy went over. I'm just going to go ahead and read it off. So what kind of drop-off in average order value or revenue do you see from offering discounts for behavioral targeting?
Yeah, so it really depends what the offer is. So if you're worried about a drop off in average order value, then I would suggest creating the offer above whatever your average order value is now. So for example, if your average order value is $50 and you want to create an offer like this to identify who people are or start treating these customers different, then start your discount at $50. So get 10% off any order over $50 or whatever your promotion might be for that. But don't start at the low end. Don't offer 10% off for everything. Set it at whatever your average order is so that any increase or the people who are applying that, you can be guaranteed that it's going to be over whatever your average order currently is. Cool. Yeah, so the one-to-one moments here. Again, this relies on your first-party data and knowing who your customers are. A couple examples of this. So in the example on the left, we're seeing welcome back James. So what this means is we know who James was because he created an account with us in the past, and now James is back on the site, and we want to show James some sort of an offer. In this example, it's a 15% off coupon code. Also taking into account things like birthday. So the example in the middle, James came to the site during his birthday month. So we're saying, happy birthday, James. Confirm your email to get 10% off below. And then the example over on the right takes into account interactions that James has had on the site in the past. So in this example, James has shared out a product, and we're saying, we saw that you shared out a few products. Would you like to join our Refer a Friend program to earn 50% off? So it's creating that loyalty. We now know who James is. We know that James has shared out a product in the past, and we want James to continue sharing out the brand with his friends. So these type of one-to-one moments, the pros are going to be that this can boost your conversion rates as much as 75%, so a huge gain in your conversion rates by using targeted and really personalized promotions. But the con here is that it relies on capturing a lot of information about these customers, and this gets really powerful if you do start requiring people to log in first, because for them to even be able to shop, you have to know who that person is. And then you'll be able to personalize the shopping experience for them after they get into the site and they start browsing around for a little bit. So it takes a little while to get this one up and running, but it's one of the more powerful and more sort of forward-thinking options that we've seen so far. And number 5 is going to be creating a cross-device strategy. So using cross-device matching to convert customers when they're back at their desktop and they're ready to buy. So this one kind of assumes that, okay, anyone who's coming to the site on their mobile device, it's going to be really hard to get that person converted. But we know if we can get them back at their desktop, then they're going to be more likely to convert. So with the cross-device strategy, again, the best identifier for cross-device matching is still going to be the email address, because once you have their email address, then you can match it up with their cookie online or on their desktop. And you can also match it up to their session whenever they're on their mobile device. So everybody here has been retargeted before, but a lot of the retargeting that we rely on now, especially some of the cross-device strategies, relies on either something called fingerprinting or cookies, and the match rate is traditionally really, really low, usually less than 20% with the cross-device matching. So if you're going to rely on cross-device matching, then you still need to focus on email address, because that's always going to be the best identifier to know this computer belongs to Chad and this phone belongs to Chad as well. So the pros here, this is going to help boost your desktop revenue, and it's really using mobile as more of a cookie pool generator. So capturing interest from the mobile device to boost the results that you're seeing on desktop. And then the focus still stays on desktop conversion rates. The con here is that this can get pretty expensive, because not only are you having to drop the cookie and get the person to the site initially on mobile, but now you also have to get that person converted either through ads or other channels once they get back to their desktop. So in summary, the 5 strategies that we're really seeing work right now and the ones that are going to help boost your conversion rates. The first one is going to be to require account registration on mobile websites and apps. The second is going to be to personalize for different cohorts of traffic based off of customers' intent. Number 3 is going to be reward mobile visitors in exchange for their data. Number 4 is going to be to create those one-to-one wow moments using your first-party data and profile information. And then number 5 is going to be that cross-device matching strategy and really focusing on getting people converted on desktop. So we'll pause here for a couple minutes. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop those over on the right, and Peter will tell those to me.
Hey guys, yeah, like Chad said, any questions, please go ahead and drop them in now so we can get to them while we still have time. But let me go ahead and pick up one that just came through so we can kick off the live Q&A here. So this one is about, I guess it's more of a high-level question for you, but what do you think about basing your entire mobile strategy around driving people to end up coming back on desktop and purchasing?
Yeah, I think conceptually it makes sense because I'm getting a little feedback. So conceptually it makes sense. You're getting higher conversion rates on desktop. So why not just send everybody to the desktop experience? But I think that the real difference, and we kind of alluded to this earlier, but the difference between mobile and the desktop, the screen size doesn't really matter. People don't mind shopping on a smaller screen versus a larger screen. It's more about the connection speed and knowing, okay, is this person on Wi-Fi? Is this person stationary? Or is this person walking around, and are they connected to 3G or 4G? Once you know, okay, they're connected to Wi-Fi or they're not, then you can start to change things. So I wouldn't always send everyone back to the desktop because that's going to get really expensive and you're going to lose focus on converting some of those people who just want to buy from their phone. But if you know the customers who aren't connected to Wi-Fi, you always want to try to get those people converted whenever they're back at their desktop, whether that's through retargeting or sending them an email whenever they're back and things like that. So I think conceptually you just have to think about it a little different because it's not the screen size that matters. It's the connection that that person has and how fast everything's loading for them.
Cool, that makes sense. Next one up on the question queue here. So maybe you gave people a little bit too much, but this question's about, it says, looks like there's a lot of opportunity here. What should I tackle first? So, what's the lowest hanging fruit here, Chad?
Yeah, I think the first thing that you should focus on is identifying who those people are on mobile. So really just capturing their email address on mobile. If I had to do one thing, and if I was starting to convert or trying to figure out how to get a website to convert better, the very first thing I would do is capture those people's email address while they're on mobile. Because even if you can't figure it out now, once you have their personally identifiable information and you know who that person is, you're going to have more opportunities to continue marketing to that person. So I would focus pretty much exclusively on that. And then once you have a really good strategy around identifying who these people are on mobile, then you can start focusing on making the site faster or getting people through the checkout process faster and things like that.
Cool, that sounds good. Last one here. Again, guys, go ahead and get them in while you still have a chance. But so the next one, how should we approach advertising on mobile? Should we target desktops because conversion rates are higher? Like, is it worth spending money, I guess, on mobile ads?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let me back up to this chart that we have right here. So whenever you're doing advertising on desktop, there's a lot of great tools out there like Google Analytics that are going to tell you, okay, someone came from this campaign and they placed their order on their desktop. Whenever you're talking about mobile, it gets a lot more complicated because of things like dark social and people going from one app to another, so the tracking and a lot of things get lost. So the key here is to track what you can track on mobile. So if you're going to do mobile advertising, then you really need to figure out a strong secondary conversion that you can feel good about, whether that's getting someone to create an account or figuring out what that person's email address is, and that's what you really start to optimize towards. If you do mobile advertising and your goal is just to get people to check out on mobile, without a really strong offer or reason for them to do that on mobile, most people just aren't going to do it. So if you're going to advertise on mobile, then you need to know exactly what secondary conversion you want these people to do, and you need to be able to know exactly what you can pay for that. So for example, if you know that you'll pay $1.50 per email and you can run a Facebook advertising campaign and you're getting emails for less than $1, then you can feel really good about that investment because you know those people are going to end up becoming lifetime customers.
All right. One more here that just came in. How much does Google Shopping help from a mobile perspective? Actually, this person had a couple. Let's just answer this one first, and then I'll get to their second question.
Okay, so Google Shopping is, I mean, obviously Google is putting a lot of emphasis on this now, and it's really awesome for retailers who have a large catalog. But I think the biggest thing with Google Shopping and the way that you're going to want to segment out the traffic from that is going to come back to that Wi-Fi example that we were talking about before. So if someone comes from Google Shopping and they're connected to a Wi-Fi network, that person's going to be more likely to convert than someone who's just in the mall and they search for something to see if they could get it for a lower price on Google Shopping. So understanding not just the channel that people came from, but what environment that person's in is going to help you start to optimize the mobile experience for Google Shopping. So Google Shopping is awesome. It's one of the better performing CPA channels that you can work with because it's people looking for specific products. They already know the price of your product and what it looks like before they get to your site. But you have to focus on, is this person in a situation with their phone that they can actually buy something right now, or are they just looking for a low price? Because if they're just looking for the lowest price, or if they're just kicking the tires per se, then it's going to make more sense to just capture that person's email address before you actually try to get them converted with an offer.
All right. Second part to that one. Do you put cookies on each person who enters the mobile site, or do you do an email address pop-up if you don't have an initial sign-in to enter the site? I guess they're asking if you're not doing the, completely gated behind a registration. Do you put cookies on everyone, or do you do an email address pop-up?
Yeah, I think pretty much every retargeting company is going to tell you to drop a cookie on everybody and then start advertising it or optimizing that spend over time. But what I would suggest is only dropping cookies on people who are showing a certain level of engagement while they're on the mobile device. So for example, if I come to your store on mobile and I give you my email address, but I don't complete a conversion, then that's the perfect person to drop a cookie on. Or if I look at 3 or 4 products, or if I add something to my cart on mobile, those are really the people who are engaging with the brand and the ones that are worth going after. If someone just comes to your homepage, or if they just click around on a couple products without really showing intent to purchase, then you're probably going to be wasting your ad spend on those people. So you're going to want to exclude those from the retargeting pool.
All right. So that's all the questions we had on the queue. Again, last chance, guys. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in now before we wrap up here. We'll wait around for a minute or two just to give you guys a chance. But I think at this point I'll just go ahead and give it back over to Chad to go ahead and close it up and wrap this thing up.
Okay, awesome. Thanks everybody for showing up. I know over on the right side, Peter dropped in a couple links to some additional guides that we have and a couple case studies and things like that. So if you're interested in those, feel free to check them out in the chat box. We will be sending out a recorded version of this webinar, so if you want to share it with any of your team members or anyone else you think might be interested, that should be in your inbox within the next couple of days. And yeah, if anyone wants to have more of a one-on-one session where we take a look at your site and things like that, then feel free to reach out and we can definitely get something on the calendar. But again, thanks everybody for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.